I'm Bambi Francisco with this segment of Lessons for Entrepreneurs, and I'm speaking with Marissa Meyer. She's the VP of Search Products and User Experience at Google. Marissa, thanks for joining us for this segment.
Hi.
So this is a time where you can share your experience to the entrepreneurs out there, and one of the things that you're very familiar with is launching products. So give us 3 pieces of advice about what we should consider when we're launching a product.
I think the most important thing when you're launching a product is to launch early and launch often. I actually think about product development sometimes as vector analysis. So if the thing that the market really wants you to build is here, the question is, how do you get there? One thing you can do is you can build a really big team, work on a product for a really long time, launch it and hope. Hope to vault yourself all the way there. And there's some companies that do this really well. The iPhone, Apple's a classic, what I would call a castle building company. They can pull the curtains closed, build, 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 and build just what the market wants. And when you do that, you get a worldwide wow effect. But the problem is, you might end up with that outcome, or you might end up somewhere totally different. Because the market was moving, you weren't getting feedback, and that's when you really have a dud. And I think that sort of the more tentative way of building products, if you're less sure of yourself, is to say, we have a rough idea of what we would build and what would make users happy. And let's just build part of what we need. And then let the users give us feedback and get pulled back onto the vector. And then let's launch again and get pulled back onto the vector. And you can kind of bird walk your way there, never getting very far off the path. But you do that by launching early and launching often.
And that's what Google
And that's what we try and do. So this is why we launch things in beta. That's why we keep things in beta sometimes for a long time, because we know we're still working, we're still iterating our way there to that spot off in the distance. And I think wrapped up in that answer, there's a couple of other key parts of advice. And one is small teams. One of the easiest ways to kill a product early is to overstaff it. Right? Sometimes you need that clarity of direction of a small team, the ownership of a small team, the scrappiness that comes with a small team to really get things launched. And I think that one of the interesting observations when we were small was we had 9 engineers when I started at Google, and Larry and Sergey said, well, what will we do when we have 18? And they were like, we can do the 3. We had 3 teams working. We had a search team, an ads team, and a product search team. I think those were our 3 teams at the time. And they said, we could do 3 teams of 6, so we'll keep doing these 3 things, but we'll do them all twice as well. Or we could do 6 things with 3 people each. And they were like, well, clearly we want to do 6 things with 3 people each. It would be much better to do twice as many things. And keep this team small and keep them invested. And I think that's a key piece of advice. And then the final piece of advice I'd offer on a product is good products have a key technical insight. And they really showcase that in their user experience. Right, so when you look at some of the products that Google's released that have been the most innovative, right, Google Search focused on getting the right result first when no one else was doing that. Right? People were worried about getting the right result on the first page, but not as the first result. Gmail looked at how can we offer 250 times as much storage space as currently being offered for free. When no one else was looking at how to increase that storage space. Google Maps looked and said, how can we do drag and drop on the desktop, and the browser as if it were on the desktop, when no one else was doing that. And so when you look at those, and the list goes on, but in each of those cases, there's a core technical insight. Our ranking function was better for search. In the case of Gmail, we had a very low-cost storage infrastructure that we had built for search, but could be leveraged for email. You take that technical insight, and then you display it in the product in a way that yields a real end-user benefit that no one else is focusing on, and that's how you innovate. On Google Maps, for example, the core technical insight was AJAX. The JavaScript had advanced far enough that you could actually do something as dynamic as drag and drop in the browser.
Now, I want to talk about some setbacks and failures. Not all. Google has a myriad of products out there, and I'm sure you'd admit that not all of them are home runs. But to the point about releasing early, I always still remember Larry Page saying, we launched Google Video with no video.
I think that's one of the, we've made lots of mistakes. over the years. In fact, it's funny, when I interviewed at Google, I remember Craig Silverstein, our director of technology, asking me to name 3 things that Google could do better. And it was the one question I flubbed in my interview because I could only come up with 2. So from the outside, it's hard to tell what a company could do better. And I knew Craig knew thousands of things. So I know all kinds of things we've done wrong, and it's hard to pick just one or just a few. I think Google Video is a classic example. We, being really interested in search, thought, when we first launched Google Video, we were capturing television channels, taking the closed captions, and providing search over them. We launched it. We called it Google Video. It was great. You could search and you could see all the television programs that mentioned the word Google that day, or all the television programs that mentioned the word, Al Gore that day. Not just programs about them and the meta information, but actual mentions in the shows. And we were really excited about this. But of course, people came and they were like, it was called video. You mean I can't watch videos? Because we just had still images. And it seems obvious now that like people want to be able to watch video, but we had to iterate. And I think in a lot of cases, it's, it's not necessarily the mistake you make, it's how quickly you recover from it. We launched product search, it used to be called Frugal, without sort by price. We launched Google News, and we didn't have sort by date. But in both of those cases, we had those sorts on the page and available as features within 2 weeks of product launch. So a lot of it is not necessarily the mistake you make, but it's that launch early and often. Launch, make the mistake, learn what the users want. When we launched Google News, we had 300 emails before lunch on Monday. It launched at 9 a.m. By noon, we had 300 emails people saying, I need to be able to find the freshest news. And it was so funny because this whole argument had erupted the previous week of what will be more important, sort by date or search by location? Will people want to find the freshest news or the information near them? And I'm sure as a journalist, it's obvious to you that people are more interested in sort by date. As technologists, it wasn't to us. But the users told us. They told us loud and clear in a matter of hours. So it's a matter of launching early and often, listening to your users, and trying to recover as quickly as you can.
So you're not. It's hard to learn from something like that because you just don't know what the users want. Sometimes. You can
guess up front, or you can try and get the basic framework of what you're trying to do there. Launch it in beta, and then listen to the users. See what they do. See how the product has to adapt.
Okay. Thanks, Marissa. I've been speaking with Marissa Mayer. She's the VP of Search Product and User Experience at Google. I'm Bambi Francisco.